Suffering Podcast. There is no greater gift that we can leave in this world than that of making an impression on a child's mind. They see all the lessons and test the boundaries, following the blueprint and behavior of those in front. We hope those that are instructing do so with the best intentions. Of the many we impact, we rarely remember the victories. It's the ones that got away that stick in our mind like glue. Did we fall short? Did we leave something behind? Or could we have done more? The enormous responsibility of working with the youth must never be underestimated. Leaving them not only with the good lessons, but also preparing them for the times of doubt. Trying to calibrate their compass so that the kids can head in the right direction. I'm Kevin Donaldson, always here with Mike Felice, and welcome to the Suffering Podcast. If you're a fan of overcoming adversity and overcoming suffering, then we're for you, because that's what we do here, and that's the stories that we highlight. So do me a favor, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, please comment, ring the bell so you can get notified of all of our new content, and now you can join. And of course, follow us on all social media so you can find out what we're up to and when we're up to it. Tonight's episode is a guy I connected with, say 2 months ago, something like that.
That's right.
And that's Danny Herrera. And he does one of the more difficult jobs, I believe, in police work, and you're a school resource officer. So tonight we're going to talk about the suffering of a school resource officer, because everything that you do impacts these kids down the road. And you never really notice your victories. You notice the ones who got away. But thank you for traveling all the way from Florida to come here. I really appreciate you.
It's my pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Before we get into anything, let's throw a big shout out to our marquee sponsor. That's Toyota of Hackensack. We don't trust anybody as police. We certainly don't trust anybody as podcasters, but we do trust the guys over at Toyota Hackensack. So if you're looking for a car, go to toyotahackensack.com and tell them the Suffering Podcast sent you. So Danny, each week we take a question from our audience. This question comes from Drake Tastic. If you could hold on to one memory, what would it be? Danny, you're our guest. Why don't you lead this one off?
All right. So I think I would say the memory of what I call the core five. My parents, my sister, my brother, and I, growing up. Just very humble beginnings.
You still in Florida growing up?
Yes. Mm-hmm. So I grew up in a city called Hialeah in Miami-Dade County. And the memory of us five in our little apartment, just struggling in some ways, but full of love and just happy times.
You know, that's where the Beatles got it right. Sometimes love is all you need. Yeah. And you could have a household with millions and millions of dollars. If there's no love in the household, you're empty. You're poor. You know, did your parents come over with the Cuban? They called it the Cuban invasion, but
yeah. So they came when they were younger. Mm-hmm. So my dad was about 9. My mom was a little bit younger. But you know, first generation over here, and
your original name's not Montana, is it?
No, it's not.
Worst Cuban accent I ever heard.
It's Manolo.
All right, so you know, I have a lot of memories. Right, the birth of my children, right. My wedding day, you know, the day not all memories are good. So the day my grandfather died. All these memories that I do hold on to. The day of my shooting, which, believe it or not, is tomorrow, July 10th. So I hold on to all these memories, but the one memory, let's say, you know, in a strange world where all my memories got wiped, the one memory that I would hope to hold on to, and I talked about it in Instagram Live tonight, which is the moment that I forgave those who did me wrong in my life. Like I totally just dropped that cup. And because it was such a warm feeling, it was such a freeing feeling. It's that weight that came off my back. You know, I talk about holding all this armor, and we do this as cops, right? We hold armor. We go to death of a child, right? And it just destroys us because we're human beings. So you put on another piece of armor and another piece of armor because you don't want to get hurt like that again. Over time, all that armor just weights you down and weights you down. The day I was able to fully drop all of the armor, you know, it's been popping off in pieces here and there. The day I was able to drop all of that armor is probably one of the most freeing, peaceful days of my life, because I was able to just go, and it's a memory that whenever I get caught up or I get aggravated at somebody, I remember that memory, and it gives me the ability to just go, you know, and that's the memory that I hope to hold on to for the rest of my life.
And it took over a decade, right?
It took. So my shooting was 12 years ago tomorrow. So it took it probably took 5 or 6 years for me to forgive Anthony Vocatoro, who tried to kill me. And then for the stuff that happened when I was a child, geez, that's recent. So it probably took close to 10 and a half years.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and I was holding that my whole life. For what? For what? What did it do? Nothing. Nothing. Except
But it's
weigh me
harder
down.
than it sounds.
And that's why it took me so long. And one of the things I said on Instagram Live was I knew the path to healing, the true path to healing was forgiveness. I knew it. But for some reason, I couldn't let it go because I tried. I just can't let it go. And guess what? It gripped me for a little while longer until finally I just dropped it. And now guess what? It's gone. It's gone. I'm not going to forget, and I'm not bringing those people in my life, but it's gone.
But see those 3 words you just said, let it go. So I'm not big on like New Year's resolutions or anything like that. But coming in 2025, maybe the end of 2024, those 3 words were so impactful to me because I've struggled with that. I've struggled with.
I do too. Listen, I'm a work in progress just like everybody else.
Yeah, with things that I can't control, and something my wife would always tell me, like, you can't control that. You need to let it go. And so that's something that with time, I'm working on it. There's some things and some traumas that I've gone through that maybe I haven't forgiven some people yet, you know. But I did watch the IG, and I'm like, man, that's impactful because I'm working on it, you know.
This came from my son. Came from my 12-year-old son.
There you go.
You know, he did this little TikTok, and I watched it by accident because I didn't even know he had a TikTok account. I knew he had a TikTok account, but I didn't know what it was.
Story.
And I'm like, whoa. And it just blew me away. Because why am I holding on to all this stuff? Why is anybody holding on to all this stuff? It's not going to make your life any better. And here's the thing. So here's the other benefit of it. Once you let that stuff go, once you let it go, you can move forward now. Because that's the blockade, right? That's the blockade from getting you to the next place that you are destined to go. And until you do that, you're stuck in quicksand. And the harder you move, the deeper you go.
And I know you're a man of faith. How about letting go of sometimes anger with God?
Yeah,
I've struggled with that as well.
You get angry for God because you don't see the lessons. All right, so think about it. As a commander in the police department, he may send you into an area where you're like, this idiot, he's stupid for sending me over here. But you're not at that high level where you're looking down and you can see that the enemy is starting to move over to the left and you're trying to flank him. So it's about looking over the battlefield,
right?
You know, and that's what I believe God does. God has that plan. So he throws those obstacles in your way. But somebody told me something, and it just stuck with me. When you're about to do something great, when you're really about to do something great in your life, the devil sees this. He doesn't bother with people who he doesn't want to know, right? He doesn't bother with any of that stuff. And he lets those people, and those people are ultra successful, but they're miserable and they're bad people.
Right.
They may show that this is the ideal life. So the devil sort of leaves them go. But he sees you because they're doing the devil's work. But he sees you about to succeed. He's going to throw every block in your way because if you continue on that path, you're going to get beyond him. And, you know, once you're able to if you see a difficulty, you know you're doing something right. Life is never easy, and it's not supposed to be because there's always a plan. Just like Hannibal Smith, if you're an A-team guy.
And again, as a parent, that's one of the things I try to teach my kids, where like you may not understand why. There's so many examples that I give my kids, and we can get into it later. But like, you know, I'm a crisis negotiator, and so I'll give you this quick one where when I first went into law enforcement, like most dudes, I wanted to be on SWAT, right?
Mm-hmm.
And to make a long story short, I just I was kind of done some disservice to say. Okay, and I love my agency, and I'm not going to here to bash anybody, but I passed all the tests, but for personal reasons, I was in a position that others wanted at the time. I kind of had moved up. I was a detective early in my career, and so I wasn't picked. Past everything, I wasn't picked, and that happened to me twice. And the second time, I'm like, you know what? I don't know what's the reason, but just God doesn't want this from me right now, if at all.
It's true.
Years later, I get on CNT, it becomes such a passion of mine. I don't know how your agency's down here, but typically speaking, because they work together, so you can't be a negotiator and on SWAT. But so the passion now, I mean, like I work on it every day, and I think I'm a decent negotiator. And it took years later. That's why God put that that route for me.
If you have enough patience, eventually down the road, you're going to go, oh, that's why you put it that way. So Drake-tastic, that was a fantastic question. Keep sending in your questions, and we will try to get them on the air. So they probably left you off the SWAT team because you're Cuban. You know, they let Puerto Ricans on the SWAT machine.
There are other, there's Dominicans, there's Colombians, but I don't see a lot of Cubans.
I don't see a lot of Cubans.
Maybe.
I don't know. I don't know what's going on in this world. So, Danny, I'm grateful that you're here. Like, I am so grateful that you're here. And I know you're supposed to be here because I text you, right?
Yeah.
I text. So let me explain to you what happened. There's a YouTuber that I was doing work with out in L.A. His name is Gideon. All right, Gideon goes out and catches child predators. He's doing really good work.
Right.
He had offered me afterwards to go up to Stockton, California, and he goes, hey, why don't you come up with me? I'll fly you out. We'll do this thing tomorrow. And I'm looking, and I'm like, and there was the moment where I'm like, let me call Danny. But I would have screwed you, and that's against my rules. Like, that's against my rules to do that stuff. I can't do that to people. So while it looked like a great opportunity, I wasn't supposed to be there. I was supposed to be right here.
Well, I appreciate that.
Yeah, I was supposed to be right here in front of you, and it was a tempting offer, but I just can't change the person that I am.
Yeah.
So why don't you tell me a little bit about how you grew up and where you grew up?
So I grew up in Miami-Dade County, in a city called Hialeah.
That was always on cops. Miami-Dade County was
Miami-Dade
always
County,
on cops.
Yep. City, the famous 305 in a city called Hialeah. Shocker, a lot of Cubans, right? Other Hispanics too.
I love Cuban food.
Every other corner. Very humble beginnings. Like I said, the core five, my parents, my sister, my brother, and I, that was my family. Sure, there were some blood relatives around, but day in and day out, the people that I can count on, it was those five. So again, my parents came from Cuba when they were younger.
You'll never see a Cuban who says they're bored. All right? You never see that. And the reason I know that is because one of our former sponsors was a guy, Gus Gutierrez, who owns Cubita Cafe.
There you go.
And he, same situation, grew up pretty much in the same area. And his work ethic is second to none. I mean, seriously, second to none. So
yeah.
Cuban people, it's like Filipino. I know a lot of Filipino people. Same thing. Their work ethic, you can't outwork these people. You cannot outwork a Cuban. It just doesn't happen. So
yeah.
I always admire. And Cubans came to this country and they embraced the American dream. And they're, for people who have been here for, listen, I've been here since late 1800s, early 1900s, my family.
Mm-hmm.
We sort of forget the hardships of whatever was left.
Right.
Cubans haven't forgotten yet. And that's a wonderful thing. Now, your kids are probably going to...
Oh, they've grown up completely different.
Yeah, it's going to be a little soft.
Different. So it's crazy because I would always tell my wife, and again, my kids are older now. It's going to be, the oldest is going to be 24, 19-year-old daughter and 17-year-old son. And while they were growing up, I would always tell my wife, look, we're doing fantastic giving these kids what we didn't have. We cannot forget to give them what we did have. Responsibility, the value of $1, working hard, because our parents, they didn't have much. And the idea now that, because again, they're in that transitional period of like, what do they want to do with their lives, right? And I always tell them, follow your passion. Don't follow a $sign. Because if you have passion, you'll be great at what you do. And if you're great at what you do, you'll be compensated accordingly. But don't go after the money. You can pay me, and I know, I don't have to watch my language.
Not at all.
Okay.
No. You say whatever you want to say.
I'll try to be as clean as possible. But I always tell them, you pay me $1 million to do a job I hate, I'm going to tell you, get the $1 million and stick it nowhere. Because I need to love what I do. And we didn't grow up with that.
So how many jobs out there, and I've had this happen to me, where you're walking out the door to take a better job. And as you're walking out the door, they'll say, well, what about if we offered you more money, right?
Yeah.
Now, this is a job you may have liked, but most of the time you leave a job that you really didn't like, you're miserable in, whatever it is, and they're going to pay you more money, probably equal or even more of what you're going to make. That money, and people who do that, people who do stay, who take that carrot, I would say 99% of the time, they're just as miserable as now they're screwed. Now they can't take the other opportunity.
How many officers leave to other agencies?
The grass is always greener, right?
Exactly.
And it's not. It's not. So I know a lot of people, we said this earlier, I know a lot of people who are millionaires, who are miserable, and I know a lot of poor people that are just happy.
Yeah.
There's happiness around. Why? Well, because if you don't have any money, all you got is family, and you might as well relish it.
And that's what I had growing up. My family and listen, once we got old enough where like we knew Santa wasn't real, you know, my dad every year would have he would have, I hope you don't have kid listeners, but every year he would sit us down and say, listen, hey, I'm going to do my best. Whatever you get, be appreciative of it. So we grew up with that, you know, so the idea of like, oh, I want this and we get it now, like, no, that's not the way I grew up. So very humble beginnings. I played baseball my whole life.
Of course you did.
Yeah, of course I did.
Of course
right?
you did.
Yeah.
Listen, you're hitting every stereotype Cuban.
The only one I'll tell you, I'm one of like 3 Cubans. I don't like to fish.
Really?
I don't like to be on a boat. I always say once we came to freedom, I'm good. Like I don't want to be on a boat.
Maybe that was a generational curse when your parents came over. Like,
like that's it.
Boats aren't cool.
I'm good. I don't want nothing to do with the water. I don't want nothing to do with fishing. But yeah, man, family's big. My parents stood together. Mm-hmm. Like the best parents, the most amazing grandparents. So I was very fortunate in that regard. But very humble beginnings. We worked hard for what we had. And yeah, so again, play baseball my whole life, and then being a cop was not on the radar at all. Being a teacher, which came before, was not on the radar at all.
That's my path. I was going to be a teacher, finished school, finished graduate school, taught for a year, and I'm like, nope. Now what? Now I get to pay back all the money of something that I'm not going to use.
Yeah.
you know, and so you went away to college?
No, I with the exception of you know, they call it like a cup of coffee in the major leagues. Mm-hmm. I had a cup of coffee in college.
Okay.
All right. And I have no shame. I told you early on, I'm an open book. It's the last time as an adult I quit something. I quit college baseball, and I never forgot it, and I never wanted to feel that again.
I did the same thing with college football.
Yeah.
It became like a job. I didn't enjoy it anymore. You know, and I look back and I'm like, God, you stupid kid, you could have played, and walking on that field is it's one of the greatest gifts that we take for granted, because you start to do it and it just becomes a job.
And there's not a week I don't think about it.
Yeah.
But again, I had to go through that, unfortunately, to never again as an adult quit anything in my life. If I want to do it, good luck stopping me.
There are lessons everywhere. It just takes some time in order to see the lesson.
Yeah.
So where'd you go after you had that proverbial cup of coffee in college?
So I went back to South Florida because the college was in Clearwater, which is a little bit further north.
Home of the Phillies.
There you go.
That's my team, man.
There you go. So and then just continued my undergrad. Then went on to grad school. Started teaching at that point. And again, the whole teacher thing, I missed some parts there, but before the whole college thing, and I'm bringing it up because this is a suffering podcast, right? So at 19, 3 days after my 19th birthday, I go through a tragic loss in my life, okay? And
do you want to tell us who passed?
A girl I had dated at the time, okay? And I had never known anybody who passed away before, okay? And you were fortunate to meet my better half. My better half and I, my wife and I, are middle school sweethearts. But we went on and off through high school and all that stuff. And at this point, we had already broken up. And
Puerto Rican girls will tend to do that, because I did date a Puerto Rican girl in college, yes.
On and off like you couldn't imagine.
Are you ready to enhance your skills and provide the best care to those who need it the most? I'm Kevin Donaldson.
I'm Sherry Alsop. Our trauma-informed training is here to help, and we've been traveling across the country delivering this essential need to departments and organizations of every size, shape, and makeup.
We come to you with on-site training, so you don't have to worry about travel or scheduling conflicts.
This isn't just a class, it's an interactive experience. You'll learn directly from subject matter experts who teach from a victim's point of view, putting you in the shoes of those who have experienced trauma.
This approach allows you to understand trauma on a deeper level and to better serve the individuals you work with.
We'll guide you through new interview techniques that prioritize a victim-centered approach, ensuring safety and empathy in every conversation.
And for those of you in law enforcement or other fields, our training includes post-credits, giving you the extra added value and recognition for your commitment to professional growth.
We offer references upon request to show just how effective our training can be.
Don't miss the opportunity to improve your understanding of trauma and make a real difference in the lives of those you serve. Get in touch with us today by going to sherryalsop.com and let us bring trauma-informed training to your organization.
Together, we can make a lasting impact.
But it's crazy because then we went years without being involved in our lives. But just something that was very impactful years later when we reconnected, when I go through that loss, the first person the next day at my doorstep is my wife with her mom, my mother-in-law now. And I didn't want to see anybody, so my dad comes in and says, hey, you know, Chrissy's at the front door with her mom, and they want to see how you're doing. And I said, respectfully, I don't want to see anybody. But I never, ever, I'm not going to get emotional, but I never forgot that, you know. And so, and at that point, she was kind of starting her own adult life, and I was, you know, I was going through what I was going through. And then years later, we reconnected, started a friendship, started dating again. We had changed. And because I remember that was something that we, you know, over a date we spoke about. I said, listen, I'm not 15-year-old Danny anymore. You know, I've been through some stuff, and I've changed. I know you have. And this November we'll make 18 years married.
Wow.
Okay, but that was very impactful because I go, man, this girl is already out with her own life. She was with somebody else at the time, and
but look at the beauty of that. Okay, I want you to look at the beauty of that. So when you're 15 together, there's some things in there. There's some moments of brilliance, but there's a lot of bad stuff, right?
Oh yeah.
All right. So then you move on and you develop new things. You develop new parts of your personality. You don't change the person that you are because all those good things will still stick with you. And for your wife your then girlfriend to reignite, you had to go through that portion of life in order to change those little things and be molded into the right person for them.
Of course.
Because that's the whole thing, right? You're not right for everyone. You're right for her. Or maybe not. I don't know. I'm sorry.
No, but I'll tell you to that point. So 15-year-old Danny and Christy are not married 18 years. I promise you that.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? We had to grow up, and we had to grow up separately before coming back together. But that was a very, you know, the loss was very impactful for me. Again, I never knew anybody at that time who had passed at all. And so going through that was I had to take my time of mourning, kind of figure out what am I doing with myself, right? And there was another impactful moment for me where I'm working at a clothing factory, and I'm a clothes packer, okay? And I had a boss, Ken, at the time, very nice gentleman. And on a Friday one day, he takes me to lunch because I was the best packer in the company. And he did a nice thing, right? But I go home that day and I look at myself in the mirror, I'm like, good job, asshole. You're the best packer at Lord Daniel's factory in Hialeah, Florida. Like that's what you're supposed to be, right? And it was impactful. I'm like, no, I got to get to school and get my stuff going. And to be fair, and again, school growing up, I was the smart one in the family, but I did just good enough to play ball. I didn't care. But I had to make that switch of like, what am I doing with my life? You know, and from there I went to school little by little, and I didn't stop for a long time. I went to grad school and the whole thing. And
after the show, I got to have you talk to Tom because that was his formative years. He was a packer, but it was like he told me it was the Pittsburgh fudge industry.
The whole other conversation. Yeah.
Sorry, Tom. I had to do it. Listen, he's one of my better friends in the world, but I do break his balls. So you have a job, right? And we all need jobs. This is a big lesson here. We all have jobs because we need to support ourselves. Unfortunately, in order to eat, you need money. And in order to get money, you got to work or steal it. And that's not something you want to do.
Right.
So you have all these different jobs. And at this time you had left teaching, I'm assuming, right? Or are you still working towards being a teacher?
At what point exactly?
When you were the packer.
No, this is before I even go to college.
Oh, okay.
I'm like 20 years old, 21, still dealing with the loss that I was dealing with. And to get another point that I didn't bring it up. So when she passes and I'm 19 years old, I become really close to her father. When I dated her, we weren't really close. Mm-hmm. But why
you were a piece of his daughter. That's what you were.
Right, but so why everybody, when she passes, the family, you know, when you hear like people that are like the glue of the family, this is what this girl was. I mean, the parents were together, but they weren't really together. So when she passes, the parents kind of split up. The kids are doing their own thing, and so somehow, me and this man become super close. And I would just go over and watch basketball games. He'd cook for me and all these things. And going back, it's one of the things that I'm super appreciative of my father, because he never felt any kind of way about that. And going back now as having kids of my own, I'm like, man, that must have been hard, because he's seeing me like, and I remember him one day telling me, like, at some point they're gonna want to stop seeing you because you're a connection to her, and and I'm like, no, but me and this dude would just hang, and again, and he would do certain things that he would never try to influence me to do, and drink and all that kind of stuff, but he was just a dope dude, man. Like, again, cooking for me, we watch games or whatnot. Well, a year and a half after she passes, he kills himself. So that was like, damn, I'm not done grieving this. Now I gotta grieve that, and I mean,
well, your father wasn't wrong.
Yeah,
your father wasn't wrong, and it had nothing to do with you. It's he didn't want to see anybody anymore.
Oh yeah.
And being a father, listen, I don't think it's the right way. I get it, but that comes from putting your kids. I'm a believer, and it's not a very popular belief. Like, everybody puts their kids first. You got to put your wife first.
Thank
you got to
you.
put your faith first.
I say that all the time.
Your wife's got to be number one.
I say that all the time.
Because if she's not number one, then that means you're not a united team. And those kids, man, they are. Every kid is a master manipulator. They don't do it maliciously, but they're a master manipulator, because it's hey, Dad, can I have a Snickers bar? No. Hey, Mom, can I have a Snickers bar? And they will divide and conquer.
Exactly.
So if you and your wife are not a unit.
One of the things that I and my wife didn't love when I would say this to the kids, but, my dad would say growing up, don't you ever make me and your mom argue. Your mom and I have zero problems. Don't make it an issue for us because of your shit.
That's a good lesson to learn.
So I would say that to my kids growing up. I'm like, your mom and I have zero problems. Don't break up our happy home because of your nonsense. So yeah, man. And we can. I mean, this episode could be just about fatherhood, because if I'm half the father, my dad, I'm doing pretty damn good, because through these moments that I'm talking about now, there's one part there, like I said, where he was never like jealous or anything like that. There's the other moment when I get the phone call of this girl passing away, where my dad followed me to her house. I didn't even realize. And he just followed me to make sure I was there okay. I was in a frantic moment and the whole thing, but amazing father.
You don't know how fortunate you were. And is your father still with us?
Still with us.
Yeah, that's right. You told me they were still alive. You don't know how fortunate you were, because you learned all those good lessons. I didn't have that benefit. Okay, so I had to develop all these things on my own, and watching other people or watching other fathers, how they interact with their kids, especially in my adult years. Figuring that stuff out on my own. All I knew is I was not going to be the same father as my father. That's all I knew. So that was the lesson I took from that, where you were actually imprinted with the good things, the love, the protection, and the protection from afar, right? So as a father, we sort of leave this string on our kids, and we tether them. And the more mature they make, we let the line out. There's a fishing reference. I know you're not a fisher. Yeah. we hit the drag. We let the line out a little bit until one day we just cut the cord. That cord's always there in some way. It just might be a mile long.
But you had the same experience as my father, because my father's father, a terrible father.
Yeah.
Terrible father.
It goes two ways, right?
Yeah, and that's why my dad growing up would always say, listen, don't tell me about I grew up here, I have to be this way. I had this father, no, you are who you want to be. Because he didn't have a great role model, and he chose to be the best father there is, so.
Well, they say that, you're in the school, so this might relate to you. They say that children who have been abused grow up to be abusers, and it's not true. It's actually a big myth. It's like, I think it's less than 10% that actually happens to, that they become abusers.
Right.
And I think it's more of an excuse. I'm hurting. That's not having the mental maturity in order to be a father, which is the toughest job in the world.
Oh yeah.
So, did you finally get in to start teaching?
I started teaching I graduated, well, again, because of this delay in that this path that God gave me, I started school a little bit later, so I graduated a little bit later. So I graduated, I was 24 when I got my bachelor's. At that point, I had already been subbing, like a substitute teacher for 2 years. And got hired right away where I was subbing because they liked me there. And I taught for 5 years, and I loved it until I didn't anymore.
I love the kids. So I was a high school teacher.
There you go.
I love the kids. All right, I did. I love coming in. The kids, I got a kick out of the kids. I did not like the other teachers. That was my problem. And I just couldn't work with these people because I used to hear the awful things they would say to these kids. And I said, do you understand they're awful kids because everybody's telling them they're awful.
Exactly.
I coach football, and there's one kid in particular, and he's still a nightmare, but he's never a nightmare to me. All right? I've never touched my kids. I'm telling you right now. And I'm man enough to admit this. I've never laid a hand on my kids. I coached this kid in 3rd grade. I never wanted to hit a kid so bad in my life. Like, he just was rotten. We used to make him go run laps, and he'd laugh at us as he's running. By 4th grade, I figured him out. He just needed a task. He wanted to be involved. He needed to stay busy. And once I figured him out, man, I'm going to tell you what. He'll walk past me. He's in high school now. He'll walk past me, and he's still a terror, right? But he'll walk past me. He'll stop. Like, if my son's in a basketball game, he's a wrestler. He'll walk up the stairs, shake my hand, and say, "How you doing, coach?" There's no greater gift in the world. And so that's the impact that a teacher can make or a coach can make. It's the same thing. Just because they present themselves as bad doesn't mean they're bad. You got to look at their life. You got to look at what's going on. You know, maybe their parents or their house is chaos, and this is how it's coming out because kids don't know how to deal with that shit.
I live in the same city now where I'm a police officer. It's the same city where I taught. And so I'll run into my former students still at the gym, at the supermarket, and it's incredible that they remember you and that you know. So I get what you mean there.
So what made you not love it?
I never went into teaching wanting to teach my whole career. I wanted to go into administration. So I ended up going to grad school, and I got a master's degree in administration, and I got another one in instructional technology, which means I'm really good at PowerPoints. And I get into a program called the LEAD program. So in Broward County, because at that point I had moved on to Broward County. And that program, you have to pass that before you can be an administrator. And at this point, I'm already like filling in for the assistant principal when they're out and this and that, but I don't have a real big idea of what's going on. I get into this program, and day one, I'm like, oh God, this is more political than I thought. And it's not for me. Now, at the same time, that was my 5th year teaching. I had one argument with my principal in 5 years, and she made my life a living hell that last year. I thank her now, because if not for her, I'm not a cop, and I'm not the happiest that I can be. But one disagreement, again, I grew up with big on respect, so I've gotten better with age. I don't take kindly to being disrespected. So she kind of disrespected me in front of people, which is a big no-no for me. And when I'm in my 20s, you know, Miami Danny, that it wasn't a good mix, but made that last year miserable. And shocker, I would go to a Cuban bakery every morning and get my cafecito before work. And that bakery became like the Cheers of the area. We knew, I got my realtor from there. We you know, businessmen and the police officers in the city. So I would get to know them because I'd go every morning for my coffee. A lot of times after work, I'd tutor. So I'd go back and get another like afternoon shot of coffee. And during that last year, you know, at that point I had kind of like gotten to know some of the cops. And I always thought I can be decent as a police officer. I always wanted to be of service. That's one thing I wanted to help people. And during that 5th year, I tell my wife, man, I should have been a cop. And that turned into like, man, I should be a cop. And thank God my wife was always supportive because she didn't marry a cop. And that's another big part of the story.
So, yeah, I want to get into that because that is – so at this time, you're transitioning out of teaching and –
3 small kids.
3 small kids. Oh, my God. What was that conversation like?
3 small kids. I'm married. We got our own place, obviously. You know, this is not an easy transition. And again, that's why, man, that there's things where we talked about earlier a little bit about appreciation. My wife has never told me not to do anything that I want to do. And she said, hey, listen, whatever it is, we'll figure it out. If this is what you want to do, you know, I want you to be happy.
You're beating a statistic. So the statistic is those who get married and then become a cop have they have a higher chance of divorce because the job changes you. Yep. I don't care who you are. You can go in that job and say it's not going to. It changes you. You see things. Where those who are a cop and then get married have a better chance of staying together.
Yep.
But oh man, that conversation has got to be rough. Oh, by the way, this money I'm making, it's pretty decent. Yeah, you can say that goodbye because I got to go down to step one.
No, and you go to a schedule, a teacher schedule. It's very family friendly, and this is going to be an unknown. I'm going to start on midnights. I'm going to do that whole thing. There's the police academy. Can I tell you, it wasn't the hardest conversation. She was super supportive from day one.
Dude, you're going to have a lot of people hating you because
they
went the other way with their wives.
It is what it is. I got lucky, man. I always say that she hit the lotto, but the fact is I hit the lotto with her, you know.
So you meeting these cops in the coffee shop? And Cuban coffee, listen, Cuban coffee is manna from heaven. I do love it. You're meeting these cops in there. What conversation was that? It's like, hey, I think you should try it.
I had a couple that told me, hey, like, I think that you would be good at it, you know. And I started just do research on it. I'm somebody, when I get into something, we can, you know, we spoke earlier about jiu-jitsu. Like, I'm that dude. Like, I go balls deep on the freaking researching and YouTube, and like, I want to be prepared. And no intention, by the way, of being an SRO, a school resource officer, at all. But I was confident enough where I'm like, you know what, I can do this. It's one of those things where I tell people, you think you know what you want to do, but you don't know until you get there. I know you had your shooting. I had one of my own. And for me, with mine, that was the day I knew I was really meant to be a cop. Because 99% of people, what do? They run the other way. My stupid ass was running towards it, right? And I can close my eyes and still see the shots coming my way. But that came later. But yeah, so I decided, you know, I'm gonna go for it. My wife said, let's do it. And I remember not knowing the certified, uncertified, the academy, how does that work? I remember being actually in the parking lot of that bakery, and I call Miami-Dade College. And because I'm like, I can't go without working. I had no idea that you can get hired beforehand and they'd pay you to go to the academy and the whole thing. Again, I got 3 kids, three little ones at the time. I got rent, I got the whole thing. So, and I call Miami-Dade College, Institute of Public Safety, and they're like, yeah, we can do the academy at night. I'm like, oh, okay, cool, I can work, you know, still teaching at the time. And they're like, yeah, it's like $10,000. I'm like, I'll call you back. Yeah. I'm like, I don't got that lying around. Like, I'm a humble kid from Hialeah. That's not the way, you know, I don't have all that. So, I'm like, well, I guess I'm not going to be a cop later on with these guys that I that were so kind to me. No, buddy, you can go non-certified route. So I was fortunate my last year. The timing was perfect because I started the process in January of that year. The school year ends in June. I start like a week later with the agency. The academy started, I think, early July, but they were like, hey, when do you want to start? Like, you can come in and help out, get a paycheck. Well, when can you start? I'm like, yesterday. You know, so I'd go and clean the gun range and help out with, you know, all that kind of stuff. Went to the academy. You know how the academy is. There's moments where, like, if I had to go back and do it again, I'd be like, no chance. But great memories, man.
I had
great memories.
While you're in it, you don't understand it.
Exactly.
But when you get out, you're like, oh, okay,
Exactly.
I understand now. I get it. I understand why they were a little tough on us and, you know, tried to break us. Because one of the things, when I was a few years in, I was probably 7 or 8 years in, the new guys coming in, I would sit there, and I was a bully as a kid because I was all messed up, but I used to bully the younger guys. I used to do it purposely, though. This was a little different. I used to bully them until they came back at me, and I'm like, okay, now you're good.
Right.
Because when you're out on the street, if you allow somebody to bully you and you don't clap back, you're going to have a real tough time. You're going to have a tough career, and you're not going to enjoy yourself. There was a method to my madness with that stuff. But with your shooting, and you bring that up, so there's something that, from what you told me, and I've gone down this rabbit hole for the last 12 years. Those people with a more solid background, with a more solid upbringing, who had good childhoods, I'm not a psychologist, but the statistics will tell you they have a much better chance of getting over it to the point where they can return to work. Those people with broken childhoods, which is the majority of police officers, because that's what makes a good cop. You know, you come from a bad home in chaos, you live in chaos, you create chaos, you can't live without chaos. Those are the people that usually break under that stress, because it's fine. It's the proverbial straw that breaks the camel's back.
Oh, yeah.
So I'm sure, while it doesn't minimize the damage psychologically that it does to you, that's not what I'm talking about. You can persevere through it, because that glass that you saw the interview that we're given a glass of how much shit we can take throughout our life, and you don't know how big it is, and just keep pouring into it and pouring into it. Your glass moving into that profession was a lot lower. It was filled a lot lower because you had that love and that foundation.
That's why community, family, friendships are important, because even now, there's moments where my wife will be like, hey, you're due for like a guys' night with your boys. Go ahead. Because she'll tell you, look, I'm here to hear you out with it. But I don't understand.
What the fuck, man?
I'm telling you.
This is
I'm telling you.
What the fuck? I'm not liking you right now, Dan.
Listen. No, you know what she does? I was telling one of my boys, because I got a couple boys that give me a hard time. They're like, you have a unicorn, right? Yeah. And I'm like, yes. Because I have, and I'm going to say your names, but we have those buddies that like, dude, jiu-jitsu trip, let's go. My wife's not letting me go on a jiu-jitsu trip. And I'm like, my wife does? When I go out with my boys and I go out of town and I go to the jiu-jitsu trip or my guys trip or whatever, she always tells me when I land, she'll send me some money. Hey, first round on me, babe. Have a great night. I'm like,
we're done.
I'm good.
We're done. There's no suffering in this. We're done.
This is not the suffering of marriage, I'll tell you that.
So when you got into police work, you had do you have any family members that are law enforcement?
At all.
So
none at all.
You're fresh. So you were a lot like me. My brother was also trying to become a cop, but I got on before him. I had a great grandfather that was a lieutenant in Philly. Who I never met. Right. So beyond that, I have no law enforcement in my family. I don't even know how you handle courtesy cards, union courtesy cards. Moving into that, moving into law enforcement, not having any background, not having any family members, what did you think? You had a vision of what it would be, and then how did it surprise you?
I had a vision of, and it's crazy because the show Blue Bloods, right? So I didn't mention anything to my family. I'm weird that way. I did it with the book, where my wife knows, my parents, who I'm close with, knew nothing until the day before my chief's interview. The chief's interview, as I'm sure you know, it's like a welcome aboard, unless you say the most outrageous thing, and then, thanks for coming. But that's the very end of the process. So the whole 6 months of psych exams and all these things, my family knew nothing. And we're a close-knit group, but I'm weird that way. And my dad, he wasn't trying to be funny, but at that point, Blue Bloods had just came out, like season 1. And he goes, is it because of Blue Bloods and you're like Jamie? And
I don't watch Blue Bloods, but that's got to be the Wahlberg kid.
No, so that was the younger brother who graduated law school. Mm-hmm. And he was the only one who wasn't a cop initially. But episode 1, he quits being a lawyer and he graduates the academy. But he was the smart one that wasn't supposed to go down the family road. And I'm like, no, Pops, dope show, but no. But I didn't have any crazy expectations. Only what you see on TV, and even before I was a cop, I'm like, I don't know how much this is real or whatever. But I just knew that I wanted to, and again, I know it sounds corny or whatever. I wanted to be of service in other ways. I had done the teacher thing. Admin wasn't going to be for me. It's like now, God bless the chiefs and all that stuff. I don't even want to be a sergeant. I don't know if later on down the line that's for me. Never say never. I like being connected to the people, not.
Yeah, when you get into the overwatch position, then it becomes a whole different ballgame. So you go through, and we talked about it earlier, where you wanted to get on SWAT, and that didn't quite pan out.
Correct.
I want to know when did the school resource officer come into play?
By accident. So 2 years in, I do the bare minimum of road patrol, 2 years, and then I get my dream gig. I become a detective in street crimes. That's what I wanted. Gangs, guns, and dope, right? And I am loving it.
You're running and gunning.
I'm loving it. About a year and change into the unit when we had the shooting, which, of course, these things always happen in the days when it was like we had worked, the holidays were super hectic, and it was the last day before we were going to get like 6 days off, unheard of, because we had worked straight so many days. So literally, you have the group chats and all that stuff. And my sergeant, who's now, he's gone up the ranks. He's a major with us now, one of my best friends. We didn't start that way. He was my sergeant. We became friends. But told the troops, hey, don't do anything today. It's the last day. And then we're going to go. It was New Year's Eve. It just made 10 years. So it was New Year's Eve of 2014. And shit happens, and we get into this chase through 2 different counties, multiple cities. Shooting happens. So after that, I do about 2 more years in street crimes. I started to get dad's guilt because, again, I grew up with a family intact. My dad coached the little league teams my brother and I played on. He was always involved. And I was in street crimes a total of 4 years, and I started realizing that I was missing out on stuff. And if you give me the choice of super cop or super dad and husband, I'm gonna go dad and husband. I don't want to be. I don't want to be the cop that you know has had 5 wives or whatever it is. You know, so we're on vacation, and I was already kind of feeling some kind of way about you know what I'm missing, and we get those department emails of the opening for school resource officer. Now I was that dude, to be honest, because I came from schools, SRO, like that's where you go when you're going to retire. That was the stigma, right? Zero interest in it at all. But the email, when I get the email, and I'm already feeling this kind of way.
But it's funny how the email just comes in front of you.
On vacation, and I show my wife, and it was like, wow, like I feel like there's a reason why it's coming out. At that time also, because it's a unit where, at least in my agency, doesn't open up very often because a lot of times people go there until you retire. And I show my wife, and I'm like, what do you think? And she goes, listen, I want you to be, you're going to get upset with me again. She goes, I want you to be happy. All right? Don't do it for me. Don't do it for the kid. We're fine. We've been fine. We'll make it work. And I said, yeah, no, but I don't want to miss anymore. And I put it forward. And me and actually a buddy of mine get in together. We've been SROs ever since. And so this now, coming school year in August, I'll be starting my 9th year as a school resource officer.
Most valuable position in the police department.
Thank you.
Okay, you want to know why? So again, I coach and I work in the town that I live in, and I'm in the construction industry. So I'm with all the cops when they're on the road jobs, and I know who the school resource officers are, and I make sure, you know, they know who my kid is. And I said, listen, you hear something, you come to me, I will take care of it. It won't be a problem. But that's not why. So we have 2 sides of our town that go to different schools. The school resource officer on the opposite side, I don't have eyes on these kids all day, on the kids on the other side of town. I don't have eyes on them, but they do, right? So when I see them, I'll say, how's so-and-so doing? How's Caden doing? Is he okay? Because, you know, I know who the problem children. I know who they are. And those school resource officers, oh, yeah, he's good. He's doing this. His brother's a little, you know, screwy here and there, but they know everything. They got their finger on the pulse. And I've had this, you know, on construction job, kid writes the name in the wet concrete, and like, oh, here, yeah, I know who it is. Let's go get him. You know, and that's how valuable they are. You are the first line of defense, because these kids are going to grow up and they're going to be teenagers. If the school resource officer doesn't do their job, these teenagers are going to cause a lot of problems, and they're going to make the police department busier than it should be.
No, and I can tell you, so I'm at an alternative school. I know they don't like that term anymore, but that's what it is. So I'm at an education center, that's what they call it, where the kids go when they get kicked out of their regular school.
Oh, that's beautiful.
So I was actually very familiar. First day as an SRO, I walk in and they're like, Detective Herrera, what are you doing here? Because I would go to the school when I was in street crimes to check. Part of what we did in street crimes, we would monitor the juveniles on probation. Okay, so this being an alternative school, where you have your gangbangers, the guys that got kicked out of other schools, I'd go in and check on them at the school. So when I became an SRO, like I said, and I go into now I'm wearing the royal blues, they're like, what are you doing here? I'm like, I'm here now. And they're like, oh, you're no longer in street crimes? You know, so but to your point, detectives reaching out all the time. Hey, you know this? Need to identify? You know this guy? And great relationship between, you know, myself and the SRO at the local high school. Because, again, when they get kicked out of there, they're coming over to me. But it worked out so well, not only for the family life, but where they put me, given my background. Because if I was at elementary school, I don't know that I would love it as much as I do, because I went down that route. And it's crazy. I ended up writing a children's book. But
most young kids are fine.
So the place that I'm at, I still feel like a police officer. I still deal with incidents. I still make arrests. The beauty of that is, because of the way I treat people, man, there's people I've arrested, they'll call me, hey, Herrera, how are you? Hey, what's good? You good? They'll come visit me, and I've arrested them. But because you treat people with respect. I'm big, like I said, I'm big on respect. I don't make it personal.
The biggest compliment, there's not a whole lot of compliments police officers can get. The biggest compliment and all pretty much you can hope for is for somebody to say that you've interacted with on a negative scale. All right, you've arrested, you've had some sort of negative interaction, traffic stop, whatever. The best compliment you can be paid is down the line for them to say, you know what, he was fair.
Exactly.
He was fair. And I know it doesn't sound like a lot, but when we hear that, we're like, oh, okay, all right, good. I'm glad that that's how I'm remembered.
When you speak to people with respect, it's. I mean, I'm an instructor with my agency. I don't get used as much as I would like, and it's no knock on the agency because I'm a school resource officer. It's hard to pull me from the school because somebody has to be there, and they do enough of that with my crisis negotiating, trainings, and when I get those warrants and call-outs, they'll quickly fill that void and have someone there. But when I do teach and I teach the new hires, I tell them, man, the way that you talk to people and the way you listen, that's the biggest tools you have. Don't go out there like you're bigger and better than everybody else because you were picked on as a kid or whatever. You can always tell.
You know.
You can always tell. And don't be. And you complimented my flag earlier. Super proud of what we do, man. Yeah. Super proud. But I'm the biggest cop critic you're gonna find. When I see asshole cops who put a bigger target on my back for no reason, I'm gonna have a few thoughts on that.
So when I was doing that Jubilee thing, everybody brought up Derek Chauvin, and I said, "You don't understand something." Well, I'm watching that, and I know it was an approved tactic or something like that, but his body language and his laissez-faire type of attitude, it was an attitude more than anything else. I looked at him, I'm like, you motherfucker, man. Yep. You ruined it for all of us. You didn't have to do it that way. And I know there's a whole backstory to it. That's not, I'm talking about that cop in particular.
In that moment, yep.
He handled it so poorly that it put a pockmark on the 700,000 other officers in this country. And I was so mad at him because, let me explain something. When I was a cop, if I found a quarter on the ground, I would turn it in. I was that guy. I wasn't holier than thou. It's just that's who I want. When I'm wearing that uniform, I'm a representative of 700,000 other people in this country. And if I do something screwed up, it's going to look bad on them.
Exactly.
Right? And that's something I never wanted to do. It's kind of like tattoos, right? So when I was a cop, especially in my department, nobody had tattoos on their forearms, right? Nobody had tattoos on. You never want to ruin it for anybody else. I think I was the first one to get a tattoo below the sleeve line, and that was this thing around the wrist right here. And then I watched other guys start getting, one or two on their arms and stuff. I'm like, what are you guys doing? And they're like, yeah, there's no policy. There's no policy that says you can't have tattoos on your forearm. I'm like, you're 100% correct. You're 100% correct. However, there was also no policy that says they can't make you wear long sleeves year round. Right? And if you make me wear long sleeves year round, I'm going to hit you with a bar of soap and a sock, And that's what a lot of those bad officers. So I'm with you on that one. Good cops. There's nobody that hates a bad cop worse than a good cop.
Facts. I say that all the time.
Yeah.
I say that all the time. And again, you get these videos, and I'm sure like you watch them all the time. And I'll get so upset with it because I'm like, yeah, you're super cool when it's 5-on-1 and now you have all these weapons out. What about number one, using your hands? We talk about jiu-jitsu, right?
Jiu-jitsu, yeah.
But also, you can't de-escalate with your mouth or with your ears. That's what, and I was telling you about an IG live that I did recently with another organization, and I spoke about that. Where like, I'm so proud. 15 years, I've never once used my taser, and I'm proud of the moments that I have de-escalated. Doesn't make me any better than anybody else, but I speak to people with respect. You said something earlier about us having this conversation and how natural it would be, and it has been. My interview tactics, I would tell the young newer cops, first 5-10 minutes of any interview with a suspect, I'm going to make them forget they're talking to a cop. I'm not even opening the case file. We're just talking. I can pick a tattoo. I'll ask them about that. Obviously, we can relate to that. If they're wearing a sports shirt. But I'm going to make them so comfortable that stigma of an asshole cop, they're going to forget about it.
So one thing I tell every guest as they walk in here, and I told you the same thing. I said, that microphone, because we got a lot of first-time people in here, right?
Right.
And they're nervous. We just had it last week. with an FBI agent. She was a high-level FBI. She's never been on a podcast, and she was really nervous. And I said, if I don't make you forget that microphone is in front of your face in 5 minutes, I failed my job.
Right.
I failed my job. And it's the same thing. It's interview and interrogate. That's all this is, right? You may say, I have this script here, and I say, if I'm going off this script, it's a horrible show. I haven't even looked at this script, to be honest with you. So that conversation, you're not going to get anything from anybody. If you go into an interview room and go, okay, so tell me when you were born, and tell me when you did the crime, and how,
Exactly.
There's no personality involved. When you just sit down and have a conversation, you lower their guard. Say, okay, well, it is what it is.
Just be a good person, be respectful. And I'll give you a quick story on how everything that you do, again, like I teach my kids, it'll come back around.
Mm-hmm.
There was about 1.5 years, 2 years ago, I get called out for a barricaded subject, and he had beat his pregnant girl, fled from the other officers, and now he's barricaded in a shed with a gun. And I get on scene, and on this call, I was going to be the coach. So for those that don't know, the coach is like the number 2. And it goes on rotation. It depends, with the team and who's going to do what, and depends on who maybe the suspect is, what are the commonalities with this negotiator as opposed to this one. But for whatever reason, I was going to be number 2. I see the picture of the young suspect. I think he's 23 at the time. I go, I know this guy. He went to my school. Sarge says, all right, your lead. The challenge was he didn't have a phone on him. So I have no way of getting feedback from him. So they put me in the SWAT Bearcat, close enough distance, just safe, where I'm on the PA talking to him. Talk about a hard negotiation. I can't get in any. So
you can't read anything on body language, face, nothing.
So I would tell him, for the first thing I did was, hey, I don't know if you remember me, but this is Officer Herrera. I'm the SRO at HD Perry. I was there when you went to school. And I would tell him, listen, you're having a rough day. You made a mistake. I'm here to make sure you don't get hurt today. Nobody wants to see you hurt, and especially me. And I would, every now and again, I would say, hey, if you're hearing me, throw out this leaf from the shed or something. And he would do it. The sniper would tell me, hey, he threw something. I'm like, oh, great, he's listening. That's the only feedback I got. And in one of those, I say, listen, I don't know what you remember about me, but I've told all the SWAT guys, you're a good dude. I remember when you went to school. You didn't bother nobody. I never had an issue with you. I guarantee you're not going to get hurt today. I don't know what you remember about me, like I said, but I'm a man of my word. I'm pretty sure you remember I was fair. I treat you with respect, and I promise you're not getting hurt today. You just got to follow these instructions. And I gave him what we call our exit plan, leave the gun, come out. He comes out bawling, crying. And man, I almost got emotional at the moment because, but if I would have treated him like an asshole,
he's dead. They would have killed him.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And so that's where, what you do today, it may not mean nothing today. It'll come back months later or years later, and it'll mean something.
I put a post out some time ago. The biggest compliment that you can be as a coach, and this goes with an SRO, and it goes with a teacher.
I coached a decade of baseball. Yeah.
Right. So the biggest compliment a coach can have is for a kid that he no longer coaches, 10 years down the road, still calls him coach. And it was from a video I was watching where Reggie Miller was interviewing Isaiah Thomas and Larry Bird, right? And both of those men coached him. So he's walking past him one day, and Reggie Miller hasn't played in a while, and he says, hey, coach. And the player next to him, he's like, they're not your coaches anymore. Why are you calling them coach? And he goes, because it's a thing of respect.
Yeah.
It's a thing of respect. So the fact that person remembered you and the way you respected him, that reverberates down. That's why I say SROs are, school resource officers are the front line, the first line of defense, because you get them, if you want an apple, you don't go pick an apple off the ground. You get one from the tree. SROs have the ability to get to that apple while it's still on the tree, not while it's on the ground. It's got all worms all over it. And that's why I say you're the first line of defense. and they're the most valuable person in the department because you can actually be preventative, which is, I think, a lot of the things that police officers want to do when they get in. They want to make a difference. Like, that's most of us. And then there's the other ones who probably shouldn't be cops that want to do all the high adrenaline, high speed stuff,
Yeah. But I'll tell you that the coach thing, it hit a chord with me because I had a former, he's my son's age, he's 17, just signed the letter of intent actually to play ball where I went to college. And so obviously we stay in touch. He just lost his father a month ago.
Give him a cup of coffee and tell him your journey.
And man, I love you, Coach Danny. Thank you. And I got emotional the day with my mom. I go look at Nicholas, and this kid was that kid where he was a bit of a pain in the ass. But man, if I had known him on the baseball field, he believed he was the best player on the team. Oh man, and he was just, his heart is as big as you can imagine. And so, to see him now, going through a loss like that, I still have my father. I'm 43 years old, 17. He's got his whole life ahead of him.
Yeah.
And so I'm trying to be more intentional about being around. And I did that. I go, you're driving, right? Yeah, coach, I'm driving. All right, man, let's get some breakfast. Let's go work out, And so, but coaches are invaluable, man.
Yeah, they are. So what caused you to write a book about all this stuff? You have all these different experiences. You have some victories. I'm sure you had some losses.
Absolutely.
Right? So they're the ones who got away, and those are the ones you remember. But what made you write this book? Officer Danny. So, I look at your Instagram, and I love what you do, and I love the fact that it says Officer Danny Safe. That's my favorite. But what made you write a book?
Thank you for encouraging me to do the Instagrams, because we gotta let people know that. So I reach out to you via email. You immediately respond and say, "Hey, give me your number and let's see when we connect." And we have a 30-minute conversation.
And this is why too many people have my phone number, because whenever an officer, I'm like, "Yeah, sure, give me a call, no problem."
Yeah, but so we have a 30-minute conversation, and the social media thing comes up, and you say, do you have one? Like, I kind of stayed away from that, man. Like, I don't really care for it. And you go, I get it, dude. Like, I'm an older dude, but what you said was, people can buy into your book, your message, your mission, but they'll buy into you as a person. And I got thinking about that, and then I started it, and like we talked about earlier, it's what you make it.
Mm-hmm.
And it's only been whatever it is, a month or so. The connections that I'm making, the people reaching out and saying, "Hey, this is awesome." It's like, man, because that's the goal. The goal was never a book. The goal was to be of service to as many people as possible, reach as many people as possible when I can't physically be there. And so the social media helps with that. But to answer your question, again, the book was never the goal, but school safety has obviously been important to me. I have 3 kids. And even when I was a detective in street crimes, this is 2016, I get nationally certified as an active shooter instructor through FLETC in Glencoe, Georgia, because growing up, Columbine was it. I was a junior when Columbine happened. And
I remember that very well.
Yeah, and now it's like, how many a year are we getting? And so it always struck a chord with me, because you talking about SROs earlier, I'm very confident, I don't want this to come out the wrong way, but I'm very confident of what's going to happen at my school, because I'm there. Mm-hmm. And I know nobody's going to train more or be more prepared than I am. But as the kids were growing up, I'm like, I don't know who's at their school. At some point, they were all 3 going to different schools, for different reasons. And I said, I don't know how prepared these people are. So I was confident where I was at, but I said, I want to, I get certified 2016. I want to be able to be the best dude for the job, but also instruct the next generation. Then I became a school resource officer. Throughout that process, during my first year as an SRO, Stoneman Douglas happens that February. I started August of 2017 as a school resource officer. 2018, Valentine's Day, Stoneman Douglas happens. That was impactful. Stoneman Douglas, 30 minutes from where I live. Okay. And that hit home. My kids were smaller at the time. And it just seemed that even after that, we kept getting more of these lockdowns. And there was another day that was very impactful for me, because I'm at work. I can't leave. As an SRO, you're there. Like that, there's no, like the summer now, I'm taking these vacations. I'm here to seeing you. Like during the school year, I'm there. And there was a day where it was a lockdown. There was a threat made, via social media or whatever it was. My wife leaves work, gets my youngest, gets my niece who went to the same school, and I'm like, this is ridiculous. Like, and again, is this SRO? Like, if something happened, what are they gonna do? So always wanting to be of service and help those in those positions. I also keep in touch with a lot of former colleagues that are teachers. And
But
again,
I think the biggest thing with school shootings, to hang on that for a moment,
yeah,
I never heard of a school shooting growing up. Never happened.
at all.
Because the way we handle conflicts. So in my generation, when you had a conflict with somebody in school, you went outside and you fought, right?
And then you were good.
You're good, right? All your aggression, all that pent up stuff got out. Now these kids, they kind of got it tougher. They can't really stand up for themselves anymore because, say, somebody punches them and they punch back. Well, they're both getting suspended, so they both get punished. You're punishing good behavior. So they get all this pent up aggression because they can't get it out. They can't get it out, and the next thing you know, these kids don't know what to do, and in they go.
But I bet if you ask most parents, would you rather have more fights and less shootings? I bet they want more fights.
Correct.
Because I was a teacher at the time when I remember there was one kid in the state who I think killed himself because of bullying, and that was the creation of the bully box. And I remember being a young teacher, I'm like, this is going to be a nightmare. Because now these kids cannot handle adversity. Who didn't get picked on growing up?
And
right?
guess what? A bully, the big thing a bully doesn't want is to be stood up to. Once you stand up,
Exactly.
however that looks, it's over.
So now you had these boxes where you would put like the little slips of complaints, and then it would get addressed. I'm like, that's not solving conflict. Nobody wants to fight. I grew up, you wouldn't believe it now because I can get talking and I won't shut up, the shyest kid you've ever seen in your life. And sometimes people mistook that for that I was weak. And so I grew up and I would fight a lot in the neighborhood. And then we were good. But now with kids, they don't know how to, like, to your point, like, they break up with a girl, they want to, like, kill the girl. They get fired from Wendy's. They want to blow up the damn McDonald's, you know, whatever it is. They don't know how to handle these things. And that's a whole other long conversation we can have. But at any rate, I you know, as a parent, more than anything else, it was concerning to me of like what resources, what training, what is given to these SROs and these teachers to help my kids stay safe in an emergency. I remember one time my youngest saying, we got under our desk during the lockdown. I'm like, that's a tornado drill, bro. Like, what are we doing?
It's a nuclear bomb coming?
Yeah, that's what we do in Florida. It's a tornado drill. I'm like, what the heck is going on? So it was years in the making. The big impactful moment comes in August of last year. I do a training with my partner at a school. That buddy that I told you came in with me as an SRO in 2017, he calls me and one of my partners in the negotiation team. And he goes, hey, I know you both are instructors. You're certified in tactical med. You're certified in active shooter. Can you come to my school and do this training to the teachers and staff? And we're like, absolutely. And Kevin, I can tell you that after that day, after that training, I call my wife, and I'm on that adrenaline high as if I just spoke a barricaded subject out of danger. Mm-hmm. I was, because I'm a teacher.
Because the lights go on.
I'm a teacher at heart. Yeah. The way that they were engaged, the way that the feedback that we got, and we taught them active shooter, lockdowns, and the tactical med part of things. Stop the bleed is what they call it. And I said, how do I do more of this? How do I reach more teachers, more, you know? And that's why I remember I told you how you do one thing is everything, and everything has to do with each other. The next day, I go to open mat on Saturday, and I got a buddy of mine. I call him my step bro. Tom Derry's his name, and Tom wrote a book on autism and hiring autism workers, and because his brother's autistic, and he has a family car wash that 75% of the employees are autistic, and he does public speaking and all that. And after open mat, the next day after this training, we get talking, and I go, man, Tom, I want to reach more teachers, man. Like, you know, I'm like, you do speaking engagements. And he goes, yeah. And I go, how do you, how did that start? And he goes, look, you need to write a book. And I said, bro, you're like the third person to tell me I need to write a book. Because again, I'm that dude that when I get talking and I'm passionate about something, I can go on. And I go, Tom, you're the third person that's told me that. And he goes, the book will get you through other doors, you know. He goes, you just got to find what your niche is. And he goes, he says, do you mind if I tell you what I think your niche should be? And I go, absolutely not. Go ahead. He goes, dude, I think you should write a children's book on school safety. And I'm like, get the heck out of here. I had thought about something like that. And he goes, well, think about it. You're an expert on school safety, right? I go, slow your roll. I hate that word. Right? I'm like, I don't believe you're an expert in shit. You should always be growing. You should constant growth, right? I want to be that dude, 95 years old, still learning stuff. And I go, so don't say that word to me. And he goes, no, cool, I get it, but you are though, right? Like you've taken guns off people in your school, like you've been a cop these amount of years, you were a detective in street crimes, like, but you know schools, you were a teacher, and I don't have an ounce of business in me, but I know you have to fill a need, right? So I said, okay, that was Saturday. Monday, I started reaching out to former colleagues. Hey, teachers, current teachers that were colleagues of mine. I said, hey, do you guys have a children's book or anything like that that teaches you what to do during a lockdown drill? Because you know how it is. If you have a really good SRO that's going to handle that for you, great. But if you don't, these teachers are left teaching a topic that they're not trained to teach.
They didn't sign up for that.
They didn't sign up for that.
Yeah.
And mind you, and these colleagues of mine have been teaching 20 years at this point. And they're like, no, you got something? I'm like, shoot, I might. I started looking up, going down the rabbit hole, researching. I'm like, there's a handful, if that, of children's books on lockdowns, on school safety in general.
And now there's one more.
And from that, I'm like, there's 2, maybe, written by police officers. But from that, you know how many there are by police officers who used to be school teachers? None.
0.
So there's something I can offer here.
You're filling that void in there. Where can the audience get that book?
So anywhere books are sold online, I would say Amazon's probably the easiest, right? Yeah. But it's available at barnesandnoble.com. It's available in Walmart.
Oh, you got Ingram Sparks.
Books A Million. I mean, it's all over. But Amazon's probably the easiest thing. But very proud of it. One of the things that I think was smart, I was so far removed from the classroom, I started looking at kids' books. Because if I didn't do that, I probably would have looked at writing something like an adult to an adult. And I got looking at children's books, simple sentences and all these things. It had been a while for me. And then I also got some feedback early on. I did the first draft, and I'm big on certain people fill certain voids, and so I asked some of these colleagues that would be honest. You got to be honest, right? And hey, why don't you, I remember one of my old friends who's a teacher many years said, why don't you make the kid in the story, kind of narrating the story, make him new to kind of add on to the things. And then I had another one that says, hey, maybe add a little bit more to how he's feeling nervous about this, because she's like, my own son gets really, really nervous about these lockdown drills. And so I made some tweaks here and there. But in the book, I came up with an acronym, the SAFE plan. That's easy to remember, very age appropriate, because I wanted something where if kids remembered SAFE, they would know what to do.
So what's the SAFE stand for?
So the S is stay away from doors and windows. The A is assemble in a hidden area. And I remember thinking about assemble may be the hardest word depending on the grade level, right? But they'll figure it out. Assemble in a hidden area. F is follows teacher's instructions. And E is evacuate when appropriate. Okay? Because obviously if you're indoors, you're not going to be leaving. But so in the story, while the officer's explaining the SAFE plan, he makes it very clear, like, hey, listen, the evacuate part, that's if you're like outside, like a recess or something like that.
But I don't see, so I think, you got a good concept here, because if a parent sees this book and doesn't read it, then you're not doing parenting right. So Danny, we're coming to the end of this thing here. And why don't you give out your social media?
So it's at Officer Danny Safe on Instagram.
Do you have any other ones besides Instagram?
No, baby steps, brother.
And again, you can get the book wherever books are sold, Amazon,
Absolutely.
Barnes & Noble, Walmart, all those things.
Absolutely.
And that SAFE hat comes to me. That SAFE hat comes to me.
Absolutely.
So
can I show one part really quick? 'Cause
absolutely.
So one thing that I thought was cool. So during the story, right, the officer explains the SAFE plan, right? And so in the story, it's here for you. Right, so as he's going over everything, do you see where I had thrown the baseball field in there when he's showing where to go for evacuation, right? But so at the end, I had the SAFE plan put again in a cutout, perfect 8x10. So if you're a teacher, you get this book, you can cut it out, put it in a nice frame, put it by the door so it's a constant reminder for what the kids can do during an emergency. So
burn it in their head.
Absolutely.
So, Danny, we end the shows the same way every time. You know, you went through a fair amount to get to here.
Absolutely.
Okay, your school resource officer life, to writing this book, to trying to make schools a little bit safer. But there's been some hiccups along the way.
Oh, yeah.
Or as you know, things happen for us, not to us, you know. There's been some hiccups along the way, and I believe in every setback, in every piece of suffering, there is always a lesson. And if you didn't learn from it, it is truly a wasted experience.
Right.
So as a school resource officer, what has that suffering and that journey to writing this book taught you?
You need to be prepared in all things. Think about what you want out of life, but in all things, man, does it suck when you're unprepared for something. You never want to have that oh shit moment and not know what you're doing. And again, whether we're talking about jiu-jitsu, parenthood, listen, you know, I had a new parent the other day from the gym, and he asked me for advice because now apparently I'm this old like wise guy, right? And I said, man, there's no book. You're gonna make mistakes, but be present. Be present. Just be there. You're going to make mistakes along the way. Listen to your kids. Talk to your kids. Be honest with your kids. But in all things, and again, there's moments where sometimes I catch myself where like maybe I prepare too much because you want to leave some room there for spontaneity and whatnot. But
not when it comes to people's kids, man.
No, at all. And that essentially that's what the book is for, and that's why with the social media stuff, you're not just gonna see stuff related to the book because to me it all comes together. But the point is, let's not. I hate and in our world, right? Something happens and command staff. Now we have this new policy, or now we have this, or now we have that.
It's because they're reactive, not proactive.
And just people in general. Too much. I've been making trying to put this out here, and it's unbelievable how many people don't care. But if tomorrow there's a school shooting,
they'll care.
Prayers for this, hashtag. Well, let's prepare that. And again, I know it's a sensitive topic for kids. That's why I got good feedback.
But this is the world we live in.
We don't live in Candyland, man.
Nope.
And so I've raised my wife and I have raised our kids so that the storm is coming. Let me prepare you how to get through that thing, not run away from it. Reality is what it is. We talk about kids growing up now in a different, completely different world than we grew up in. This is unfortunately part of the reality they grew up in. Let's get them ready for it, not be reactionary. Let's be proactive. That's the gist of the mission.
Well, I appreciate you, Danny, and I appreciate you traveling all this way, but it's an important message. I'm so happy, and I'm happy for the challenge coin as well. All I can read is police in Florida.
There you go.
I
really appreciate you having me on and reaching out to me, and you got a friend for life, brother.
Well, listen, man, there's on to great things, right? You know, you're just starting.
Absolutely.
So that's going to do it for this episode of the Suffering Podcast, the suffering of a school resource officer, and let's think about all the stuff that we learned. There are lessons everywhere. Things happen to us. Things happen for us rather than to us. SROs are the first line of defense. Everything we do will come back around. Let it go.
That's right.
But most importantly, and we learned this from Officer Danny, keeps us safe, be prepared.
Yes, sir.
And that's going to do it for this episode. Don't forget to go to popple.com, put in the code TSP20 for a 20% discount on your digital business card. Follow us on all social media. That's Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, LinkedIn, Clapper, OnlyFans. Follow me at Real Kevin Donaldson, and of course, follow the Suffering Podcast, and we're going to see you on the next one.